Hey there, sleepy cutie. Take a deep breath in and let it out slowly. The day is over now. The stars are awake and the world is calm. Tonight's story is about Finn, the brave human who loved adventure more than anything, learning that sometimes the greatest adventure is finding peace in the quiet of night. The moon rose high over the Candy Kingdom, spreading soft silver light over rooftops made of sugar and clouds of frosting. Most of Ooo was sleeping. Jake had already curled into a donut shape on his bed, snoring gently beside BMO, who hummed in sleep mode. But Finn couldn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling made of warm, honey-colored wood. His body was tired, but his mind wandered, replaying moments from the day. The laughter, the quests, the excitement. And yet when everything grew still, he didn't quite know what to do with the silence that remained. He turned on his side and whispered softly, "Can't sleep." Outside, the forest whispered in the moonlight. Fireflies blinked gently among the trees. An owl called once, far away. Finn sat up and looked out his window. The stars looked close tonight, as if they had leaned down from the heavens just to keep him company. He thought about how strange silence could feel peaceful and lonely all at once. Then he smiled a little. Maybe what he needed wasn't to fight it, but to listen to it. He stood quietly, slipped on his boots, and crept past Jake, careful not to wake him. Opening the door, Finn stepped outside. Cool night air wrapped around him like a soft blanket. The grass felt cool beneath his feet, and the moonlight painted everything silver, every leaf, every stone, every petal of every tiny flower. He walked through the meadow near the treehouse, where the air smelled like mint and honey. His footsteps were slow, soft, easy. With every breath, his mind grew a little quieter. He reached the edge of the pond. The surface shimmered with starlight. Finn knelt beside it, dipping his fingers in. Ripples spread out in slow, perfect circles. "Hey, stars," he murmured. "Do you ever get tired of shining?" The water moved gently, as if it had heard him. The night didn't need to answer, it just was. Calm, endless, peaceful. Finn lay down beside the pond, folding his hands behind his head. The stars reflected in his eyes. They twinkled like friends, whispering softly to each other. Somewhere far away, a little laughter drifted through the breeze, maybe someone dreaming. He felt his chest loosen, his shoulders relaxed. The quiet didn't feel empty anymore. It felt full of the tiny sounds and movements that made the world alive even when everyone else slept. After a while, a faint glow caught his attention. Between the trees, a small golden light floated slowly through the air. Finn blinked. "What's that?" He stood up and followed it. The light bobbed gently ahead, almost playfully, as if it wanted to lead him somewhere. Deeper into the forest he went, walking softly so he wouldn't break the spell of the night. The trees stood tall, their leaves whispering secrets. The path shimmered faintly in the moonlight. At last, the light stopped in a small clearing. The grass there looked soft as velvet, and in the center hovered a tiny creature, a round, glowing orb with tiny wings. It blinked once, curious and kind. "Hey, little buddy," Finn said in a hushed voice. The orb circled him once, then floated slowly away, pausing every few steps, as if making sure he followed. Finn smiled and whispered, "All right, lead the way." The glow guided him to a narrow stream that shimmered with light. The water flowed quietly, glowing with reflections of stars above. Finn knelt beside it, cupping a handful of water and letting it slip through his fingers. It was cool and alive, like touching moonlight itself. He felt the smallest, warmest calm settle over him. He didn't need to talk. He didn't need to move. He just sat there beside the glowing water, with the gentle orb hovering nearby, listening to the quiet rhythm of the night. The air smelled like rain and flowers. The wind hummed softly through the trees. For the first time all day, Finn wasn't chasing or fighting or saving. He was simply being, and that was enough. He closed his eyes and let the sound of the stream fill him like a lullaby. His breathing slowed, deep and steady. The orb drifted closer, shining a little brighter for a moment, and then dimmed again, almost like a heartbeat. Finn smiled. He felt at peace. And as the stars wheeled slowly overhead, he knew that somewhere, in the hush of the forest, the night itself was smiling back. The night grew softer around Finn, like a blanket being tucked a little closer. He sat quietly by the glowing stream, the tiny orb floating nearby, pulsing gently in the air. For a long while, neither of them moved. It was as if the whole forest was holding its breath perfectly still, perfectly calm. Finn finally whispered, "You're kind of pretty, little guy." The orb twinkled once in reply and then began to drift forward, hovering just above the stream. It wanted him to follow again. Finn stood, brushed off his knees, and smiled. "Okay, I'm coming." He followed the orb along the stream's edge. The water curved gently through the trees, reflecting the moonlight like silver ribbon. All around him, tiny lights began to appear, soft glimmers between the leaves, glowing mushrooms along the roots, and pale blue fireflies that danced in slow, dreamy circles. Finn realized he wasn't walking through an ordinary forest anymore. He was somewhere special, somewhere that didn't exist during the day. As he walked, he noticed the air had a quiet music to it, not made of instruments, but of rustling leaves, gentle water, and faraway sighs of wind. Every step made the ground shimmer faintly under his boots, like the earth itself was dreaming. He followed the orb until they reached a wide clearing. In the middle stood an old stone archway covered in moss and tiny flowers that glowed faintly blue. The orb floated toward it, hovered a moment, then turned back as if waiting for him. Finn took a slow breath. "So this is it, huh?" He stepped through the arch. The air changed immediately. It felt softer, thicker, somehow as though it was filled with invisible threads of light. The world beyond the arch was unlike anything he had seen before. There were trees made of crystal bark that shimmered with faint color, their branches reaching up like frozen fireworks. The grass looked like silk moving in slow waves. And floating everywhere were thousands of glowing orbs like the one who had guided him. Tiny lights drifting gently, each one humming with its own quiet tone. Finn whispered, "Whoa." The orb that led him bobbed happily in the air, then drifted toward a large silver-leaved tree at the heart of the clearing. Finn followed, his boots making almost no sound on the soft ground. At the base of the tree was a calm pool of water, smooth as glass. The orb settled above it and dimmed its light until it was no brighter than a candle flame. Finn knelt by the pool. The water reflected the stars above and something more. He saw faint shapes moving just below the surface, shadows of mountains, forests, and clouds. It was as if the pool held a reflection of the entire world. He reached out and touched the water. It rippled once and the reflection changed. He saw himself and Jake laughing at the treehouse. He saw BMO dancing on a table, singing a little song. He saw Princess Bubblegum smiling softly as she worked late into the night. All the moments he loved quiet, simple ones, flowed across the surface like memories made of light. Finn felt his chest grow warm. "I didn't know the night could remember things," he whispered. From somewhere behind him, a voice answered, soft and kind, like wind brushing through leaves. It remembers everything. Finn the human. He turned, but there was no one there, only the gentle flicker of orbs floating between the trees. "Who's there?" he asked softly. The light nearest to him brightened and began to swirl. From it, a faint figure appeared made of starlight and mist. It had no clear face, but its presence felt kind, ancient, and familiar. Finn didn't move. He just stared, feeling a calm curiosity rather than fear. "Are you, part of this place?" The figure's voice seemed to echo inside him rather than in the air. "This is the quiet kingdom," it said. "The place where the noise of the day sleeps. Few find their way here unless the night calls them." Finn looked around slowly. "It's beautiful. It feels alive." "It is," said the voice. "Everything that rests dreams here." Finn's eyes widened a little. "Even people?" The figure nodded. "Even you, if you choose to listen." He thought for a moment, then smiled faintly. "I guess I could use a little rest." The figure's outline shimmered gently. "Then let the stillness teach you. Walk without needing to arrive. Listen without waiting for words. And the quiet kingdom will show you what peace means." The figure's light faded, leaving only the drifting orbs once more. Finn sat back and breathed deeply. The air smelled like rain and morning dew. He could hear the gentle sound of the stream flowing nearby, steady and peaceful. For a long while, he simply sat there watching the lights drift across the water, one by one. He realized that every light seemed to hold a tiny image inside it. Memories, dreams, or moments from somewhere else in Ooo. A candy person laughing, a baby fire wolf yawning, tree trunks baking a pie in her cozy home. All these tiny pieces of life glowed gently in the night. Finn whispered, "Guess the world never really sleeps." He leaned back, lying on the soft grass, watching the orbs float above him. They moved in gentle patterns, forming shapes like constellations. As he watched, his eyelids grew heavier. The quiet around him deepened, not empty, but full of a kind of loving calm. He thought he heard Jake's voice for a moment, soft and far away, like a memory drifting on the breeze. It made him smile. The orb that had led him settled near his shoulder, glowing warmly like a nightlight. Finn murmured, "Thanks for showing me the way." His eyes closed halfway, but he stayed awake just enough to see the stars spinning slowly above the quiet kingdom, each one pulsing with a soft rhythm, steady and sure. He didn't need to go anywhere tonight. He didn't need to fight or chase or plan. He only needed to rest. And as he lay there, surrounded by the hum of light and water, Finn felt something deep within him loosen, a knot of restlessness he hadn't known was there. The forest exhaled around him, and he breathed with it. The quiet kingdom had begun its gentle work. The night in the quiet kingdom never truly stood still. It moved slowly, like a dream that didn't want to end. Finn lay on the soft grass, eyes half open, listening to the rhythm of the stream nearby. The glowing orbs floated overhead, drifting like lazy clouds of light. When he sat up, the orb that had guided him pulsed softly, almost like it was waiting. "Where to next?" Finn whispered. The little orb bobbed once and began to glide forward through the silver trees. Finn followed, his steps quiet and easy. The air grew cooler as they walked. The trees seemed taller here, their leaves whispering faintly, like voices speaking gently in another language. Between the roots, faint shapes shimmered shadows that looked alive but peaceful, their outlines soft as fog. Finn realized he was seeing spirits as gentle ones, born from stillness and calm. Each one moved slowly, their forms shifting like moonlight on water. One of them floated closer. It looked like a swirl of pale light in the shape of a small animal, maybe a rabbit, maybe something else. It stopped near Finn's feet, tilting its glowing head. "Hey there," Finn said softly. "You're not afraid, huh?" The creature blinked with eyes that were made of light. And then it placed its tiny paw on his boot. In that instant, Finn felt something, not words, but a feeling. A calm that sank deep into him, warm and steady. The spirit's voice wasn't a sound, but a thought that brushed gently across his mind. "Be still, and the world will move for you." Finn smiled faintly. "That's kind of deep." The spirit turned and hopped ahead, vanishing into the light like a mist blown away by wind. Finn stood still for a moment longer, breathing slowly, letting those words sink in. He continued walking. The orb led him to a small grove where a soft light pooled like liquid silver. There, a larger spirit appeared, tall and slow-moving, with wings made of mist. Its eyes glowed like quiet lanterns. It spoke without sound. Its voice felt more than heard. "You are always running, Finn the human. Always searching. Always trying to save and fix. But peace is not something you chase. It is something that waits for you patiently." Finn lowered his head. "Yeah, I guess I've been running for a long time." "Then walk slowly now," the spirit said. "Let the night hold you. You do not need to be strong here. You only need to be." The spirit's wings unfolded gently, scattering small motes of light across the grove. Each tiny light floated upward like a drifting wish. Some touched Finn's hands, glowing softly before fading away. It felt like the stars were brushing against his skin. "Thank you," Finn whispered. The spirit bowed its head, then melted back into the light of the trees. The orb that guided him hovered near his shoulder, bright for a moment, then dim again, calm and steady. Finn walked on. The path led to a small hill covered in silver moss. At its top stood a tree unlike any he had seen, tall, white-barked, and completely silent. Not a single leaf rustled, even though the wind whispered all around it. He climbed the hill slowly, his hands brushing the soft moss. When he reached the top, he could see the whole quiet kingdom spread below the glowing streams, the fields of light, and the soft movements of resting spirits. Everything shimmered gently under the eternal moonlight. Finn sat beneath the silent tree and leaned against its trunk. He looked up. The branches seemed to hold tiny pieces of the sky itself. After a while, he heard a quiet voice beside him. "Beautiful, isn't it?" He turned to see another figure, a young woman made entirely of faint light, with hair that flowed like mist. Her eyes glowed pale blue, calm and kind. Finn blinked. "Are you another spirit?" The woman smiled. "Something like that. I watch over this part of the night. I keep the dreams soft." Finn tilted his head. "The dreams?" She nodded slowly. "When the world grows too noisy, dreams need a place to rest, too. They come here to the quiet kingdom until they're ready to visit the minds of the sleeping again." Finn thought about that for a while. So this is where dreams come to rest. "Exactly," she said gently. "Even dreams need sleep." They sat quietly together, the silence between them peaceful and full. After a long moment, Finn asked, "Do you ever get lonely here?" The spirit smiled. "The night isn't lonely. It's full of company, just quiet company. Every sound you don't hear, every thought you don't speak, every breath that slows, that's the night, keeping you company." Finn leaned back against the tree and closed his eyes for a moment. He could feel it, the hush, the softness, the sense that everything around him was alive but unhurried. He thought of Jake, sleeping back at the treehouse, and how peaceful he always looked when he dreamed. He thought of the days that used to tire him out, the adventures, the noise, the endless movement. He realized how long it had been since he'd just been quiet. The spirit's voice came again, softer this time. "Do you feel it now, Finn?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's nice." She smiled. "That's the first lesson of rest stillness isn't emptiness. It's where the heart heals." The orb near Finn pulsed once like it agreed. He let out a long, slow sigh. "I think I understand." The spirit rose from beside him, her form turning lighter, almost transparent. "Then let that feeling stay. Don't hold it too tightly. Just let it drift with you." Her light faded into the air until she was gone, leaving only the soft glow of the orb and the silver leaves of the tree. Finn sat there, eyes half closed, his heartbeat slow and steady. The world around him seemed to breathe a single, peaceful rhythm shared between him and the night. He didn't need to speak. He didn't need to move. He just listened. And in that gentle stillness, Finn felt like the stars were whispering a secret meant only for him. A secret about rest and kindness and the quiet beauty of simply being alive. Finn stayed beneath the silent white tree for a long time. He could feel the quiet pulse of the world beneath him, steady and slow, like a heartbeat shared between the earth and the sky. The orb floated nearby, circling lazily, its glow dim and peaceful. Finn looked up at the stars through the tree's silvery branches. They shimmered softly, like they were breathing too. He felt calm, but not done. There was something else waiting for him. He could feel it. He stood and looked down the hill. The orb brightened slightly, as if sensing his thought. "All right," Finn whispered, smiling faintly. "Show me what's next." The orb floated forward. They followed a narrow path that wound between glowing flowers. Their petals swayed gently, even though there was no breeze. Each step Finn took seemed to make the ground hum softly, like the night was singing to him. Eventually, the path opened into a wide meadow. The air here felt warmer, filled with a golden glow that reminded him of morning sunlight, even though it was still deep night. At the center of the meadow stood another figure, taller than Finn, wrapped in a robe made of gentle light. Its face wasn't clear, but its shape felt familiar and kind. Finn paused, unsure if he should speak. But the figure turned to him and said softly, "You came far, little hero." The voice was warm, like a parent's or an old friend's. Finn smiled a little. "Yeah, I guess I couldn't sleep." The figure chuckled, a sound like wind through leaves. "Sometimes, the ones who help others forget how to rest themselves." Finn rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah, that's me sometimes." The figure tilted its head. "Do you know why the night brought you here?" Finn thought for a moment, then shrugged. "I guess I just needed to be quiet for a bit." The figure nodded. "And in quiet, what do you hear?" Finn looked around the glowing meadow. He could hear faint sounds, water, wind, the hum of starlight. But deeper than that, he heard something inside himself. "I hear memories," he said slowly. "Like moments. People I care about." The figure smiled. "Good. You're hearing gratitude." Finn blinked. "Gratitude?" "Yes," said the spirit gently. "The second lesson of rest. The heart cannot rest when it's holding on to what's missing. It rests when it remembers what it already has." Finn sat down in the grass, cross-legged, the orb floating beside him. "I think I get that." The figure gestured toward the sky. Above them, The stars began to shimmer brighter, and then, slowly, scenes began to unfold among them. Finn saw the treehouse glowing faintly under moonlight. Jake, snoring with one arm hanging off the bed. BMO humming quietly to itself. Princess Bubblegum laughing during one of their adventures. Marceline strumming a quiet tune under a red moon. Every face, every sound, every little moment that had made his world feel full. Finn felt warmth spread through his chest. "I miss them," he said softly. The figure's voice was kind. Missing someone is another way of saying you are grateful they exist. Finn nodded, eyes misty but calm. "Yeah, I guess I am." The figure lifted a hand. Tiny orbs of light drifted out from its palm, glowing like golden petals. They floated around Finn, each one carrying an image, a laugh, a shared meal, a hug, a small moment of kindness. The orb that had guided Finn from the beginning joined the circle, glowing brighter, pulsing gently in rhythm with his heartbeat. The figure said, "Every moment of joy you have known still shines here. Gratitude is how the heart keeps light alive." Finn whispered, "So, even when everything feels dark, it's still there." "Yes," the spirit said, "always." The golden lights swirled once, then drifted upward, dissolving into the stars. Finn closed his eyes. He could still feel their warmth around him like a blanket made of memory. After a while, he said softly, "I think I understand now. Peace isn't just about quiet. It's about remembering what makes the noise worth it." The figure smiled. Finn could sense it, even if he couldn't see the face clearly. "You're learning well, little hero, but there's one more thing you must know before you can truly rest." Finn looked up. "What's that?" The figure's form began to fade, turning into strands of light. "To rest deeply, you must let go. Not of love, not of care, but of weight. The things you carry that no longer belong to you." Finn tilted his head. "Wait." The spirit's voice grew fainter, echoing like a memory. "Every adventure, every choice, every what if, you carry them still. Let them go, Finn. Let the night carry them for you." The figure vanished completely, leaving behind only the meadow and the soft hum of the night. Finn sat quietly for a long time, letting the words sink in. Let go. He closed his eyes and thought about all the things he'd been holding. The times he'd failed, the fights he'd lost, the moments he'd wished had gone differently. He thought about the weight of always being the hero, always needing to be strong. Then softly he whispered, "I think I'm ready to rest now." The orb glowed a little brighter. Finn smiled at it. "Thanks for sticking with me." The orb drifted close to his shoulder, pulsing once, warm and steady. Finn lay back in the meadow, the stars above glowing like gentle candles. The golden light from before lingered faintly in the air, wrapping him in soft warmth. He took a slow breath. The air smelled like honey and grass, and something sweet he couldn't name. He felt light. Lighter than he had in a long time. And as his eyes began to close, the last thing he saw was the orb's faint glow hovering beside him, patient and kind. He whispered, "Good night, Ooo." And the night whispered back, "Rest easy, Finn." The meadow had gone still again. The golden light had faded, leaving behind the silver calm of night. Finn lay quietly, eyes half open, watching the stars sway gently above him. He could still hear the soft hum of the world around him, the rhythm of water, the whisper of leaves. The orb hovered near his shoulder, glowing faintly, patient as ever. Finn took a long breath. He could still feel the spirit's words echoing inside him. Let go of the weight you carry. He didn't fully understand what that meant yet, but he wanted to. He sat up slowly. Guess we're not done, huh? He murmured. The orb pulsed once like a nod, and began to drift toward a narrow path lined with silvery stones. Finn stood and followed, his steps slow, his heart quiet. The path led uphill, winding between tall trees whose branches formed archways overhead. The light grew dimmer here, softer, almost gray. The air had a stillness that felt older than time, not cold, not heavy, just deep. As he walked, Finn started to notice something strange. The air shimmered faintly around him, and from the corners of his eye, he began to see flickers of shapes, faint, ghostly outlines that looked like versions of himself. He stopped and turned. One figure looked like him from long ago, smaller, younger, with a wooden sword and wide, eager eyes. Another looked older, standing taller, wearing a worn-out backpack, his face thoughtful and serious. All around him, shadows of himself drifted silently, each one glowing faintly blue. Finn swallowed. Whoa, what is this? The orb floated beside him, pulsing gently. The younger Finn, the one with the wooden sword, looked up at him and smiled. You were so excited back then, Finn said softly, almost to himself. Ooh, he could almost hear that old version's voice in his head, full of laughter, full of fire. Then from behind, the older shadow stepped closer. It didn't speak, but Finn could feel what it was thinking. You've carried every adventure with you, every mistake, every loss. Finn looked down. His hands trembled slightly. I guess I have. The orb brightened. Its light stretched outward, illuminating all the different versions of him. There were so many Finns from different times, different moments. One carrying a broken sword. One sitting by a campfire. One standing in the rain, crying quietly. One laughing with Jake. One alone, watching the horizon. Each of them looked peaceful now, no longer caught in motion, just still waiting. A new voice spoke then, low and kind. The voice of the night itself. You hold on to every moment, every version of yourself, because you're afraid to forget. But you cannot rest while you're holding everything at once. Finn looked around at all the shadows of himself. I don't want to forget, he said softly. They're all part of me. The voice replied, you don't need to forget. You only need to forgive. Finn frowned a little. Forgive? Yes, the voice whispered. Forgive yourself for changing, for not being who you once were, for growing. Finn took a long, slow breath. His chest felt tight. That's hard. The voice answered gently, letting go always is. He looked at his younger self again, bright-eyed, fearless. You are brave, he whispered. Then to the older one, quiet, worn, thoughtful. And you're wise. He closed his eyes. I guess I can be both. When he opened his eyes, the shadows of himself began to shimmer, one by one, dissolving into small lights that floated upward, joining the stars above. Each one left a warmth behind, a small feeling of peace. When the last light faded, the air around him grew brighter again, and the heaviness in his chest lifted. He didn't feel sad. He felt free. The orb pulsed warmly. Finn smiled. Guess that's what letting go feels like. He looked around. The forest had changed. The trees seemed lighter, their leaves sparkling faintly as if covered in tiny drops of starlight. At the end of the path, a small archway appeared, made of woven branches and flowers that glowed soft blue. Beyond it, he could see a faint golden light, gentle and steady. The orb drifted toward it, slow and patient. Finn followed. His steps felt lighter than before, as if he wasn't walking on the ground, but on something softer made of air and memory. He stepped through the archway and found himself on the edge of a quiet lake. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the stars like a mirror. There was no sound, not even the wind, only his breathing. Finn walked to the edge and knelt, looking at his reflection. For the first time, he didn't see the restless version of himself that always needed to move, to fight, to fix. He saw someone calm, tired maybe, but peaceful. He dipped his fingers into the water. The ripples spread wide and slow. The orb hovered beside him, glowing steady and warm. Finn whispered, "I think I'm starting to understand, little buddy. You're showing me how to rest." The orb glowed brighter for a moment, then dimmed as if nodding. Finn smiled softly. "Thanks." He lay down by the lake, resting his head on his arms. The stars shimmered above, their reflections swaying gently on the water. He felt lighter than he had in years, no weight, no noise, no rush. Just the quiet rhythm of breathing and being. Somewhere far away, he thought he heard Jake's laughter again, soft and happy. It made him smile. He whispered to the night, "I'm okay." And the night, full and quiet, whispered back, "You are." Finn lay by the silver lake for what felt like forever, though time didn't seem to matter anymore. The night held him softly, not like a cage, but like a blanket. He could feel his heartbeat slowing, matching the rhythm of the world around him. The orb hovered quietly nearby, faint now, as if its purpose was almost complete. Finn turned his head slightly, watching the light flicker over the still water. "You've been with me this whole time," he whispered. "Did the night send you?" The orb pulsed once, yes. Finn smiled, the corners of his eyes soft. "You've got good timing." The air shimmered gently. Somewhere beyond the trees, the first faint streaks of pink began to touch the edges of the sky dawn, far away but coming. Finn sat up slowly, the grass damp and cool beneath his hands. "I guess it's almost time to go back." The orb floated higher, circling him once, then hovered over the lake. Its reflection rippled softly on the water's surface. Finn took one more deep breath, trying to remember everything he'd learned here, the calm of stillness, the warmth of growth. It was a calm evening in the treehouse. The sun had just slipped behind the candy-colored hills of Ooo, painting the sky in soft peach and lavender. Finn was lying on the couch, half dozing, while BMO hummed a tiny lullaby in the corner. Jake stretched lazily, his long yellow arms curling like ribbons in the fading light. "Man," he said, yawning wide, "this is a perfect night for some good old-fashioned coziness." Finn cracked one eye open. "Coziness? Like a hot cocoa and blankets kind of cozy?" Jake grinned. "Nah, dude. I'm talking ultimate cozy, the kind that makes your soul snuggle itself." BMO perked up. "Jake, are you going to make a fort again?" Jake chuckled. "BMO, my little cube of cuteness, you know it. It's time for a brand new blanket fort, but not just any fort. This one's going to be magical." Finn sat up, rubbing his eyes. "You mean like a fort that glows or something?" Jake stretched his arm toward the pile of blankets in the corner, dragging them across the floor like a giant soft wave. "Oh, it's gonna glow. It's gonna hum. It's gonna smell like cinnamon dreams." Finn laughed. "That sounds amazing." Jake puffed out his chest proudly. "Buddy, it's not just amazing. It's sleep legend material." The air in the treehouse felt different, already warm and full of excitement, but also slow and soothing, like the world was already winding down. Jake started stacking pillows, draping blankets, and stretching his body into shapes that made perfect arches and tunnels. BMO helped by holding up tiny fairy lights. "Lights here, BMO," Jake said, pointing with his tail. "Okay, Jake," BMO replied, voice cheerful and tinny. Soon the treehouse was filled with the gentle sound of soft fabric rustling and small giggles as the fort took shape. Blankets hung from chairs and shelves, pillows made mountains and caves, and soft lights glowed from inside. Finn crawled through the tunnel, eyes wide. "Whoa, Jake, this is amazing." Inside, the air felt warmer, quieter. The fairy lights cast little sparkles on the walls, and the blankets made everything feel safe, like the world outside couldn't reach them here. Jake stretched out on the biggest pile of pillows and sighed happily. Welcome to the blanket fort of dreams. Finn lay down beside him, tucking his arms behind his head. "You really outdid yourself this time." Jake smiled, eyes half closing. "Yeah, buddy. I figured it's been a while since we just relax. No monsters, no dungeons, no missions, just us." The fort gave off a soft hum, almost like it was alive, breathing along with them. BMO crawled in next, holding a tiny mug of hot cocoa. "BMO brought snacks," Finn grinned. "Perfect timing." Jake chuckled softly, his voice low and calm. "You know, Finn, sometimes I think the best adventures are the ones where we just don't move at all." Finn tilted his head. "Like dream adventures?" Jake nodded slowly. "Exactly." The fairy lights flickered slightly, and the glow in the fort deepened, golden and soft, like candlelight. Outside, the night had settled in, the stars just starting to blink awake. Finn yawned, feeling his eyelids grow heavier. "This is pretty nice, dude." Jake's voice was smooth, warm as honey. "Yeah, that's the secret, bro. You make a place so cozy, your brain just melts into happy." BMO giggled. "Melted brain happy?" Finn laughed sleepily. "You guys are weird." But he couldn't stop smiling. The three of them lay there in the fort, breathing softly. The fairy lights pulsed gently, matching the rhythm of their hearts. The blankets rustled like soft waves when the wind brushed the treehouse walls. Jake murmured quietly, "Hey, Finn." "Yeah?" "Close your eyes and imagine this. The fort isn't just blankets, it's a whole world." Finn smiled. "What kind of world?" Jake's voice dropped to a dreamy whisper. "A world where every blanket is a cloud and every pillow is a hill. The air smells like cookies, and the stars above you sing lullabies." Finn chuckled. "That sounds perfect." Jake grinned, eyes closed. "Exactly, bro. That's what we're building. That fort's so cozy it opens a door to dreams." The lights flickered again, softer now, and something in the air shimmered. For a moment, Finn thought he saw the fabric ripple like water, glowing faintly from within. He blinked. Jake?" Jake smiled, half asleep. "Your fort's glowing." Jake yawned. "Means it's working, man. Just relax. Let the cozy do its thing." Finn looked around. The lights seemed to move like tiny fireflies. The air was full of warmth and the scent of vanilla. He could feel his body sinking deeper into the pillows. His last thought before drifting off was that Jake might have actually built something magical this time. And somewhere in the soft glow, the blankets began to ripple and whisper, as if the fort was slowly unfolding into another world, a world made of dreams. At first, Finn thought he was still half asleep. The air felt thick and sweet, like warm cocoa steam. He could hear the faint hum of the fairy lights, but they sounded softer now, like music playing from far away. He opened his eyes slowly. The fort had changed. The blankets no longer touched the floor. They floated gently in the air like soft, slow-moving clouds. The fairy lights were no longer on strings. They were tiny, glowing stars drifting lazily through the air. Finn sat up and blinked. Whoa, what in the blanket biscuits? Jake was lying beside him, one arm tucked under his head, smiling sleepily. Welcome, bro. Finn looked around. The whole fort had become a sky wide and endless, but still wrapped in warm, golden light. The ground beneath him was made of huge, puffy blankets that moved like gentle waves. Jake, Finn whispered. Where are we? Jake stretched, his body stretching way out like a lazy ribbon across the floating fabric. You're inside the blanket fort of dreams, baby. BMO appeared from behind a giant pillow cloud, floating on a little teacup like it was a boat. Jake, it's so soft. I think I'm sailing on snuggles. Finn laughed, his voice echoing softly through the dream space. Dude, oh, this is amazing. Jake nodded proudly. Told you, this fort's got heart. Once you get comfy enough, it starts building the dream itself. Finn lay back on the soft fabric, feeling it shift under him, warm, weightless, perfect. The sky above was full of drifting stars and little patches of blue that shimmered like daylight hidden in a nap. This feels peaceful, Finn murmured. Exactly, Jake said, rolling onto his back. That's what dreams are supposed to be, man. All the good stuff from your day just melted together into a comfy smoothie for your brain. Finn chuckled. A dream smoothie. Jake laughed too, the sound deep and warm. Yeah, bro. Dream smoothie with extra chill. BMO floated closer, holding out an imaginary mug. Would you like a sip of BMO's dream smoothie? Finn pretended to drink. Tastes like marshmallows and memories. BMO giggled. Perfect. The three of them lay there for a while, drifting in the floating fort world. Everything was slow, calm, timeless. Even the stars above seemed to hum softly, a lullaby too quiet to understand, but warm enough to feel. Then faintly, Finn noticed something, a glow on the horizon, where the blanket clouds curved into the distance. Hey, Jake, he said softly. What's that? Jake lifted his head and squinted. Looks like the dream hearth. The dream what? Jake smiled. Every blanket fort's got one, dude. It's where the warmth comes from the big cozy heart that keeps the dream alive. Finn sat up. Can we go see it? Jake stretched his arms wide. Heck yeah, we can. It's probably gorgeous this time of night. They started walking, or rather, bouncing across the clouds of blankets. Each step made a soft thump sound, like walking on giant marshmallows. Every few steps, tiny lights fluttered up from the fabric, little dream motes, glowing like fireflies. BMO floated along beside them, making happy beeping noises. I love this fort world. There are no chores here. Only joy. Jake chuckled. Exactly, little buddy. No chores, no worries, just soft feeling. As they walked, the horizon glow grew brighter, not harsh, not hot, but golden, like candlelight on snow. Finally, they reached a clearing made of layered blankets, shaped like flower petals. In the center stood a glowing hearth, not made of fire, but of light and warmth. It pulsed gently, like a beating heart. Finn stepped closer, awestruck. It's beautiful. Jake smiled softly. That's the soul of the fort, man. It's built from our laughter, our chill vibes, our friendship. The warmer we are with each other, the brighter it burns. Finn looked at the flickering light, then at Jake and BMO. So, it's It's alive because of us? Yeah, Jake said, stretching out and laying near it. Every cozy moment we shared feeds it. Every laugh, every nap, every lazy day. BMO sat down next to them. So we should keep being cozy forever. Jake chuckled. That's the dream, BMO. They sat there together in front of the glowing hearth. The warmth from it wasn't just physical, it reached something deeper, something quiet inside them. It was the feeling of being safe. Finn leaned back on his elbows, eyes half closed. Hey, Jake? Yeah, bud? I think this is the happiest I've ever felt without doing anything. Jake grinned lazily. That's the power of the fort, man. It's like, it reminds you that you don't gotta fight dragons every night to feel alive. Finn smiled. Sometimes you just need blankets. Exactly. The light flickered brighter, wrapping around them like a hug. The world outside the fort, the treehouse, the night, Ooo itself faded away completely now. All that was left was warmth, softness, and quiet laughter. Finn whispered, It feels like the fort knows us. Jake murmured, eyes closing. Maybe it does. The air shimmered again, and slowly, gently, the fort shifted once more. The hearth began to spread its light, painting the blanket sky with moving shapes, stars forming into patterns, showing tiny scenes of memories, Finn and Jake's adventures, their laughter, their friendship through the years. Finn smiled sleepily. It's showing us our own dreams. Jake's voice was soft. Yeah, buddy. The good ones. The warmth deepened, the light softening until it looked like candle flame behind your eyelids. Finn felt his breathing slow, his heartbeat calm. BMO hummed a soft tune, a melody made of tiny digital beeps that somehow sounded like a lullaby. Finn yawned. Jake. Thanks for building this. Jake smiled. Anytime, bro. Sweet dreams. And as the dream hearth pulsed once more, the blanket clouds began to drift, carrying them deeper into the world of dreams. The soft hum of the dream hearth faded into the background as Finn, Jake, and BMO drifted onward across the blanket clouds. Everything around them glowed in muted gold and blue like a quiet sunrise that never fully arrived. Finn rubbed his eyes, still feeling drowsy but peaceful. Jake, how big is this place? Jake stretched one long arm out, pointing toward the endless, glowing horizon. As big as your imagination wants it to be, buddy. The cozier you feel, the more the fort grows, BMO gasped, floating gently between them. So if I imagine extra cuddly blankets, more will appear. Jake grinned. Try it. BMO closed its little eyes, beeped once, and whispered, Extra cuddly mode activated. Suddenly a puff of soft, cloud-like fluff rose from the floor, wrapping around BMO like a tiny cocoon. BMO giggled. It worked! I am in cozy heaven. Finn laughed. That's adorable. Jake smirked. See? You just gotta believe in the comfort, bro. They kept walking, the ground shifting gently beneath them. Every few steps, the scenery changed like dream pages turning themselves. Soon they came to a valley made entirely of giant pillows. They stretched for miles, stacked and layered like rolling hills of softness. Each time Finn or Jake stepped on one, it sank down with a satisfying thump and slowly puffed back up again. Finn fell backward onto one, sinking deep into the fluff. Oh, man. I could stay here forever. Jake flopped down next to him. Welcome to Pillow Valley. BMO rolled off a tiny pillow hill and landed in Jake's lap. I love Pillow Valley. It's like swimming in hugs. They all laughed, the sound echoing gently through the air. Not loud, just warm. Above them, Tiny glowing shapes floated like stars, some shaped like hearts, others like little sheep drifting lazily by. Finn pointed at one. "Check it out, Jake, sheep clouds." Jake smiled, eyes half closed. "Perfect for counting, bro." "Counting?" Jake yawned. "Yeah, 1, 2, 3. He started counting softly, his voice slow and sleepy. Finn joined in, smiling. 4, 5. BMO beeped quietly, trying to keep up. 6, 7. The air felt thicker now, heavier with drowsiness. Even the stars seemed to sway slower in the sky. But just as Finn's eyes began to close, the soft wind of the dream changed. It carried a new smell, something sweet and buttery. Finn blinked. "Do you smell pancakes?" Jake sat up instantly, eyes wide. "Oh, snap! We're near the breakfast meadow." "The what?" Finn asked, laughing. Jake stretched, sniffing the air like a happy dog. "Oh, yeah. The land of never-ending breakfast dreams. Fluffy stacks, syrup rivers, and skies that smell like toast." Finn grinned. "Now that sounds like a dream." BMO clapped its hands. "Let's go to Breakfast Meadow. BMO wants waffles." Jake pointed dramatically towards the glowing horizon. "To breakfast." They hopped off the last of the pillow hills and started walking again. Though here, every step seemed to bounce them higher, as if the ground itself wanted to play. Soon the smell grew stronger: maple syrup, butter, and something that smelled like cinnamon and sunlight. The blanket ground turned golden, and soft rays of light poured through the clouds. They stepped into a field made of giant pancake stacks, with rivers of syrup flowing gently between them. Small, round marshmallow creatures floated on the syrup, waving as they passed. Finn laughed, his eyes wide. "Jake, this is insane." Jake chuckled. "Nah, this is breakfast perfection, baby." BMO ran ahead, arms open. "Good morning, pancake people." One of the marshmallow creatures floated closer and squeaked. "Good morning, little cube." Finn sat on a pancake hill and felt the warmth radiating up through his hands. "It's actually warm, like fresh from the pan." Jake lay down beside him, folding his arms behind his head. "Every cozy fort's gotta have a breakfast world, bro. That's like universal law." Finn smiled. "Yeah, I can't argue with that." BMO danced in a circle, tiny feet making soft plop sounds on the pancakes. "This is the happiest place in the fort." Jake stretched. "It's pretty good, huh? But the best part comes later." Finn raised an eyebrow. "Later?" Jake winked. "When we reach the dream nap fields. It's where every nap you've ever wanted waits for you." Finn chuckled. "You really thought of everything." Jake shrugged. "Nah, man. The fort builds itself from what we love most. That's how dream magic works. It's all built from our hearts." Finn looked out over the syrup rivers and soft golden light, and felt something quiet inside him, the kind of peace that comes when everything is simple and safe. He turned to Jake. This is kind of beautiful." Jake smiled, his voice soft. "Yeah, every bit of it's made from love, man. That's why it feels so good." Finn leaned back, eyes heavy. "So the more we love, the bigger the fort gets?" "Exactly," Jake said. "Love builds the cozy." They stayed there for a long while, eating imaginary pancakes, laughing softly, and watching the syrup rivers sparkle in the warm light. BMO eventually curled up between them, humming a gentle song made of happy little beeps. The blanket sky shifted again, deepening into twilight. The dream hearth's glow could be seen far away, pulsing like a soft heartbeat, reminding them that even in dreams warmth comes from togetherness. Jake murmured quietly. "Next stop, the nap fields." Finn nodded sleepily. "Can't wait." As the pancake hills began to fade behind them, the world changed once more. Syrup rivers becoming streams of golden light, the ground turning soft as clouds again. They floated onward, wrapped in laughter, friendship, and the slow rhythm of the dream world. The golden rivers of syrup slowly faded behind them, melting into a haze of light. The air cooled, carrying a scent like lavender and honey. Finn felt his steps grow slower, heavier, but not from tiredness, more like the world itself was asking him to move softly. Jake stretched one arm lazily toward the horizon. See that, bro? That shimmer over there? That's the nap. The sun was drifting low over the Land of Ooo. Golden light poured through the clouds, painting the grass in honey and the trees in a warm orange glow. It was one of those perfect evenings, not too warm, not too cool, where everything seemed to breathe together. High up in the great oak tree, Finn leaned out from the tree fort window, arms folded over the sill, watching the world slow down. He smiled to himself. The day's falling asleep, he murmured. Behind him, Jake stretched lazily across the couch, his long yellow body curling like a soft blanket. Yeah, man, he said, a voice drowsy. Even the wind's taking a nap. Finn turned, laughing. Hey, Jake, you know what we should do tonight? Jake cracked one eye open. Uh-oh, whenever you say that, I end up building something weird. Finn grinned. Not this time. I was thinking tea party? Jake blinked. Tea party? Yeah, Finn said. Like a chill one. Just us. No monsters, no quests, no running around. Just tea, cookies, and stories. Jake blinked again, then slowly smiled. You know what? That sounds awesome. From the kitchen, a tiny voice called, BMO approves of this cozy idea. Finn laughed. You in, BMO? BMO appeared from behind a teapot that was almost as big as they were, holding a small tray of cookies shaped like stars. BMO is always in for tea and cookies. Friendship fuel, baby. Jake chuckled, stretching to grab a cushion. Then it's official. The Treehouse Tea Party begins at sundown. As the sun sank lower, the tree fort transformed. Jake strung fairy lights made of glowing fireflies along the ceiling beams. BMO arranged the cups carefully on a little tablecloth patterned with hearts. And Finn brought out the good mugs, the mismatched ones they'd collected from their adventures. One mug was chipped, but painted like a galaxy. Another had a little doodle of a sword on it. And one had Jake's paw print on the side, pressed in clay years ago. They set everything out on the table and stepped back. Finn smiled. Looks perfect. Jake nodded. All we need now is the tea. BMO stood proudly beside the teapot. Already steeping, my dudes? Steam curled from the spout like a tiny ghost, carrying the smell of mint and honey. The air in the tree fort felt softer, like the whole place had been wrapped in a blanket of golden peace. They sat together as the last light of the day slipped away. Outside, crickets began to sing. The stars blinked awake one by one. Jake poured the tea carefully, his paws surprisingly gentle. The cups clinked quietly against the table, a sound small and lovely, like laughter in miniature. Finn took a sip and sighed happily. That's really good. Jake nodded. BMO, you've got serious tea skills. BMO puffed up proudly. I followed the ancient recipe of the cozy masters. Finn laughed. What's that? BMO leaned closer, whispering dramatically. Hot water, tea leaves, friendship. They all burst into gentle laughter that filled the room and melted into the warm light. After a while, the talking slowed. They didn't need many words. The quiet felt nice. Finn leaned back, looking out the window. The moon's up. Outside, the great silver moon hung low over the forest, its light spilling through the branches like liquid glass. A soft breeze rustled the leaves, and the fireflies blinked slower now, resting on the walls. Jake stretched and smiled. You ever notice how nights like this kind of hug you? Finn grinned. Yeah, it's like the world's tucking us in. BMO nodded wisely. Nature loves bedtime stories. They all smiled at that. Jake poured another round of tea, the steam dancing lazily in the moonlight. Finn broke a cookie in half and shared it with BMO, who nibbled happily, crumb by crumb. No one said much. They didn't have to. Sometimes peace doesn't come from adventure or excitement. It comes from the quiet between friends. Later, Finn leaned his chin on his hand. You know, this reminds me of that night we camped near the Candy River. The one where the stars looked like jelly beans. Jake laughed softly. Oh, yeah, you tried to eat one. Finn blushed. I thought it was real candy. BMO giggled, covering their little screen face with both hands. Finn tried to bite the universe. Jake chuckled. Classic Finn. Finn shrugged, smiling. Hey, the universe looked delicious. The laughter faded gently, replaced by quiet again. That kind of quiet that feels full, not empty. The room was bathed in gold and silver light, soft shadows swaying on the wooden walls. Finn looked at his friends, then out the window again. You know, he said softly, sometimes I think this right here is the adventure. Jake raised an eyebrow. Tea and cookies? Finn smiled. Yeah, just being here. With you guys, after everything, still together. Jake's grin softened. Yeah, man, that's the good stuff. BMO nodded slowly. It's the best episode ever. They all laughed softly, and then just sat, listening to the sounds of the night, the wind through the branches, the distant hoot of a sleepy owl, the faint bubbling of the Candy River far away. The tree fort glowed like a lantern in the dark, warm, peaceful, alive. And as the moon climbed higher, the three friends sat together in the quiet, sipping tea, breathing easy, letting the world slow down around them. The tea had cooled a little, but the tree fort was warmer than ever. Outside, the forest whispered gentle rustles and sleepy songs carried on the breeze. Inside, time felt slower, softer, like every moment had been dipped in honey. Finn leaned his elbow on the table, tracing a finger along the rim of his mug. I like nights like this, he murmured. It feels like the stars are listening. Jake yawned and stretched, his arm looping lazily around the back of Finn's chair. Then maybe we should give them a good story to listen to, he said, smiling. BMO perked up. Yes, story time. Story time is the dessert of friendship. Finn laughed. All right, BMO, you start. BMO stood up on the table, striking a heroic pose beside the teapot. This is the story, BMO began in a tiny but grand voice, of Sir Toasty and the quest for the perfect nap. Finn grinned. Oh, I already love this. BMO cleared their little throat. Once upon a time, in the breakfast kingdom, there lived a brave little piece of toast named Sir Toasty. He wore a jelly cape and carried a butter sword. Jake chuckled. Butter sword? That's slippery. Exactly, BMO said, pointing dramatically. It slipped everywhere. But Sir Toasty did not give up. Finn leaned closer, smiling. What was his quest? BMO's voice softened. He wanted to find the perfect nap. But everywhere he went, the waffle plains, the syrup mountains, even the cereal seas, he could not rest. Too sticky, too crunchy, too soggy. Jake giggled, covering his mouth. Poor dude. But then, BMO continued, Sir Toasty met a wise old teapot who said, the perfect nap is not a place. It is the feeling of being safe. BMO's screen face glowed softly in the candlelight. So Sir Toasty stopped searching. He laid down under the shade of a pancake tree, surrounded by his friends, and finally slept. Finn smiled, eyes half closed. That's actually really sweet. Jake nodded. Dang, BMO, you got deep on us. BMO bowed proudly. BMO is a poet of coziness. The three of them laughed softly. Outside, the moonlight shifted brighter now, spilling across the table like milk. Finn looked out at it, his reflection floating in the glass. My turn, he asked. Jake and BMO nodded eagerly. Finn took a slow breath. Okay. This is a story called The Little Star Who Got Lost. BMO clapped their tiny hands. A cosmic tale, Finn began, voice quiet but clear. There was once a little star who loved to sparkle. Every night, she'd shine so bright that even the clouds moved aside to watch her dance. But one evening, she got too close to the edge of the sky and fell. Jake's eyes widened. Oh, snap. She fell for a long, long time, Finn continued softly. Through clouds, past birds, past the tallest mountains, until she landed in a quiet forest. BMO whispered. Poor little star. She tried to shine, Finn said. But down here, her light was small. The fireflies glowed brighter. The moon looked far away. And for the first time, she felt alone. Jake frowned slightly. That's kind of sad, dude. Finn smiled gently. Wait for it. One night, he said, a boy walking through the forest found her. He saw her tiny glow and thought it was a lantern. But when he got closer, he realized it was a little star. Jake's ears perked. The boy said, You look lost. And the star said, I don't belong here. The boy thought for a while, then smiled. You do tonight. So he built a little jar for her, filled with clear water and a piece of the moon's reflection. And every night, he'd sit by her light and tell her stories until she felt at home again. Jake sighed softly. Man, that's nice. Finn smiled. When she finally went back to the sky, she shone even brighter, because she remembered what it felt like to be loved. BMO's voice was tiny. That's the best bedtime story I ever heard. Jake nodded slowly. It's, sleepy in a good way. The tree fort was quiet again. Only the creak of wood and the hum of the night filled the air. Finn leaned back in his chair, eyes heavy but happy. Your turn, Jake, he murmured. Jake rubbed his eyes and smiled. All right, I got one. He sipped his tea slowly, then began in his low, lazy voice. This is the story of the blanket that could hug back. BMO gasped softly. Oh, cozy legend. Jake chuckled. Once upon a time, there was a blanket who lived all alone in a closet. It missed the days when it got to keep people warm, but the family moved away and no one ever used it anymore. Finn listened quietly, his eyelids drooping. One cold night, Jake continued, a little dog wandered into the house. He was shivering, wet from the rain. The blanket fell off its shelf and wrapped itself around the dog, and for the first time in years it felt warmth again. Not from the house, but from kindness. He paused, smiling faintly. From then on, the blanket didn't care if it was fancy or new. It just wanted to keep someone safe. And that's exactly what it did. Finn whispered. That's perfect. Jake stretched, his voice softening. I think all good stories end like that. Someone safe, someone warm, someone home. The night deepened. The stars shimmered brighter now, thick across the sky like spilled sugar. The tree fort swayed gently in the breeze. BMO's voice was almost a whisper. We should have tea parties every week. Finn smiled sleepily. Yeah, even heroes need bedtime. Jake chuckled, eyes half closed. Heroes and pancakes and talking toast. They laughed softly again, that half-asleep laughter that fades into sighs. Outside, an owl hooted once, far away. Inside, the last bit of tea steamed quietly, filling the room with a scent of mint and moonlight. The three friends sat together in the hush, safe, warm, wrapped in light. The moon hung high now, round and silver and calm. The forest below had fallen into deep sleep, every leaf resting still. Inside the tree fort, the candle burned low, flickering softly against the walls. Finn yawned, stretching his arms. Man, that tea really hit the spot. Jake nodded lazily. Yeah, man, it's got that sleepy magic. BMO tilted their little head. Tea magic confirmed. Finn smiled, his eyes half-lidded. You ever notice how everything feels a little slower at night? Jake chuckled quietly. Well, that's the world's way of telling us to chill. The room was warm, glowing softly with leftover light from their tea candles. Outside, the stars shimmered, not twinkling anymore, but breathing, rising and falling in slow waves. BMO looked out the window, their screen face glowing pale blue. The stars look close tonight. Finn leaned beside them. Yeah, like we could almost reach them. Jake stretched one long arm out the window playfully. I can try. He reached, his arm extending far beyond the frame, stretching until Finn laughed softly. Jake, you're gonna touch the moon. Just a little poke, Jake murmured. But before his paw reached the stars, the whole tree fort gave a gentle shift. The teacups rattled softly. The floor creaked like a sigh. Finn blinked. Whoa, did the tree just move? Jake looked around, then out the window. Bro? Finn joined him, and his breath caught. Below them, the forest was gone. Not gone. Exactly, just far away. The tree fort had risen, slowly, quietly, its roots still glowing faintly with golden light. They were floating, drifting through the star-filled sky, surrounded by the shimmer of the night. BMO gasped. We're sailing. We're sky sailors. Jake grinned sleepily. Guess the tea was magic. Finn's eyes sparkled. No way. Are we actually flying? He leaned out the window again, wind brushing his hair. The air was cool, soft, filled with starlight. Below, the Land of Ooo glowed faintly, the Candy Kingdom, twinkling like sugar crystals, the Ice Kingdom gleaming blue, the Flame Kingdom flickering warm and distant. Jake yawned, smiling. Guess the tree fort wanted in on the tea party, too. BMO climbed up on the windowsill, tiny arms stretched wide. Captain BMO reporting for Stardust duty. Finn laughed, his voice hushed but bright. All right, Captain. Set our course for Dreamland. BMO saluted. Aye, aye, Dream Captain. The tree fort drifted higher, the stars swirling gently around them. The walls creaked softly, but nothing felt scary. It was like the house itself was humming a lullaby. Inside, everything glowed silver blue. The teapot floated a little above the table, the cups shimmering faintly, their leftover tea rippling like tiny galaxies. Finn leaned against the window, his voice quiet and amazed. It's so beautiful, Jake. Jake nodded, his gaze half-lidded but peaceful. Yeah, man, it's like the sky's dreaming us too. BMO whispered. Maybe we're part of a big bedtime story. Finn smiled. Yeah, maybe we are. The tree fort drifted past a field of stars that shimmered like flowers in the dark. Somewhere far below, a cloud shaped like a whale yawned and blew out a puff of mist, sending ripples through the air. Jake chuckled softly. Sky whales, dude. You don't see that every day. Finn grinned. Only during tea hour. They floated past a ribbon of light, an aurora made of blues and greens that moved like music. BMO reached out a tiny hand and sparks of color trailed across their fingertips. It feels like memories, BMO whispered. Soft ones. Jake rested his chin on the table, smiling. Yeah, like naps you forgot, but still remember somehow. Finn nodded. Exactly. After a while, the motion grew slower. The tree fort rocked gently, like a ship on quiet waves. Finn yawned, resting his head on his folded arms. This is the coziest adventure ever. Jake stretched, his eyes drooping. Yep, no monsters, no chaos. Just us, tea, and the stars. BMO whispered from the window, and the universe watching kindly. The three of them sat in that peaceful hush, no sound but the creak of the wood and the faint hum of the stars. Jake murmured, Hey, Finn. Yeah? Jake smiled sleepily. If we keep floating like this, promise we'll never forget it. Finn smiled back. How could we? The tree fort glided quietly across the night. Clouds brushed past the windows like soft blankets. The moonlight pooled across the floor, silver and calm. BMO started humming a soft, wordless tune. Finn joined in after a while, his voice low and steady. Jake added a lazy hum from deep in his chest, a slow vibration that made the air feel warm. Their voices wove together, quiet, simple, and beautiful. The kind of sound that makes the stars listen. After a while, their song faded into silence. The tree fort continued to drift slower now, like it was finding its resting place among the stars. Finn's eyes closed. Jake's breathing deepened. BMO's screen dimmed to a gentle glow. Outside, the world kept turning clouds, whispering past, constellations sparkling softly. And there they were, three friends, safe and dreaming, sailing quietly through the sky. The night had grown still. The tree fort drifted, slower and slower through a sky painted in velvet blue. Stars faded at the edges of the world, and the moon began to dip toward the horizon. Inside, everything was quiet. Finn slept with his cheek pressed to the table, a faint smile on his face. Jake was curled like a golden pillow beside him, one arm draped protectively over the tea tray. BMO rested in the window, their tiny screen pulsing gently with a soft blue heartbeat. The teapot, empty now, floated lazily in the air. Its last puff of steam rose like a whisper, a final sigh before the dawn. Outside, the first glimmer of sunrise touched the clouds. It was faint, a pale pink shimmer spreading slowly through the dark, like watercolor soaking into paper. The tree fort gave a gentle creak, as if it too were waking. The floorboards shifted softly beneath the friends, the warm wooden walls humming with life again. Finn stirred first. He blinked, rubbing his eyes, and stretched. Morning already? He murmured, his voice rough with sleep. Jake yawned without opening his eyes. Nah, man. Just dreaming of pancakes. Finn chuckled quietly. That tracks. BMO blinked awake, their face lighting up faintly. Morning, sleepy muffins. Finn sat up slowly, blinking around the room. Everything looked a little different. The colors were softer, the air thicker with the scent of dew and mint. Then he noticed the window. The stars were gone. Below, a misty layer of clouds drifted lazily past the branches. Jake, Finn whispered. We're landing. Jake cracked one eye open and smiled faintly. Ah, the return voyage. Classic. The tree fort descended quietly, the clouds parting like curtains of silk. Sunlight began to peek through, gold spilling across the wood floor. Birds stirred in the trees, their sleepy chirps blending with the soft creak of the house. Finn leaned against the window, watching the world come back into focus. The green fields of Ooo, the glimmering rivers, the little hills dusted in morning fog. Jake stretched until he looked like a long yellow scarf, then flopped back into his usual shape. We actually flew, huh? Finn smiled dreamily. Yeah, I think we did. BMO clapped softly. It was beautiful. Like a lullaby you can walk inside. Jake chuckled. You got away with words, BMO. BMO nodded proudly. I practiced in my sleep mode. The tree fort settled into place with a soft thump. The whole house gave a little sigh, like it was happy to be home. Finn looked around. The teacups were still on the table, the firefly lights still glowing faintly, but everything felt touched by something gentle, a kind of peace that lingered even after the dream had faded. Jake poured the last drops from the teapot into his cup and sniffed it. Still smells like starlight, he said. Finn laughed softly. What does starlight even smell like? Jake shrugged, smiling. Like adventure that's ready to rest. Outside, the forest began to wake. The wind moved through the leaves, carrying birdsong and the smell of earth. Beams of morning light slipped through the windows, painting golden lines across the floor. Finn breathed deeply. You ever think about how every sunrise is like the world's good morning hug? Jake smiled. Dude, you're getting poetic. Can't help it, Finn said, grinning. Guess it's the tea. BMO twirled happily in the air. Tea and friendship, the ultimate brain fuel. They laughed together, their voices soft and full. After a moment, they sat in peaceful silence again. The only sounds were the creak of wood and the flutter of wings outside. Finn looked around at the mess of crumbs, the tea rings on the table, the sleepy fireflies still clinging to the walls. He smiled. It all looked perfect. Jake noticed the look on Finn's face. What you thinking about, buddy? Finn tilted his head, eyes half-lidded. Just how nice it is to stop for a while. To have a night where nothing has to happen. Jake nodded. Yeah, man, no fights, no quests. Just us being alive and chill. BMO added softly. Every calm night is a little treasure. You just have to open it slow. Finn laughed. You're full of wisdom today, BMO. BMO smiled. I downloaded Tranquility. Jake chuckled. Wish I could download a nap. They cleaned up the table together, quietly humming a tune. Finn washed the cups. Jake gathered the crumbs. BMO folded the little tablecloth carefully. As they worked, sunlight spilled over the floorboards, catching on every glass surface, turning the room into a sea of gold. Finn paused, watching it. It's funny, he said softly. Last night felt like a dream, but it still feels real somehow. Jake nodded slowly. Yeah, maybe it was both. Both? Finn asked. Jake smiled faintly. A dream that decided to come true just for a little while. BMO's screen flickered with a tiny heart. I believe that. When everything was tidy, they sat back down together, mugs empty, hearts full. The tree fort creaked happily in the morning breeze. Finn stretched his legs and leaned against the window again. The sun was rising higher now, gold melting into blue. He whispered, Hey, guys. Yeah, Jake murmured. Finn smiled. Let's have another tea party next week. Jake grinned sleepily. Only if you promise to invite the sky again. BMO clapped. The sky is always invited. The three of them laughed softly as the morning wrapped around them, warm and bright. Outside, the wind carried the sound of their laughter across the waking world, a small, gentle promise that peace can be found anywhere, if you share it with the right friends. And somewhere far above, a few stars still lingered faint, but steady, keeping watch over the tree fort that had sailed the night. The tree fort was bathed in gold, Light spilled through every crack and window, turning the wooden floors warm to the touch. The smell of tea and dew still hung in the air, sweet and gentle, like the memory of a dream. Finn sat up from the couch, stretching his arms until his joints popped softly. "Man," he whispered, "I slept like a rock. A really happy rock." Jake yawned from his hammock. "Dreamt I was a cloud. Think I still feel floaty." BMO, already awake, sat by the window humming quietly to the sunrise. "The day is here," BMO sang softly, "but the night is still waving hello." Finn smiled, pulling on his hat. "Come on, let's go outside for a sec." They stepped out onto the balcony together, blinking into the soft morning light. The air was cool and full of birdsong, hundreds of tiny voices greeting the day. Below, the forest glittered with dew, every leaf catching the light like glass. Jake stretched his arms wide, his body growing long enough to stretch from one branch to another. "Oh, yeah," he sighed. "Now this is good air." Finn leaned on the railing, eyes half closed. "You ever notice how mornings feel like forgiveness?" Jake glanced over. "Forgiveness?" "Yeah," Finn said softly. "Like the world gets to start over, no matter what happened yesterday." Jake smiled slowly. "That's deep, dude. Guess the sky tea changed you." Finn laughed quietly. "Maybe a little." Down below, something glimmered between the trees, faint and flickering. Finn squinted. "Jake, look. You see that?" Jake peered down, shading his eyes. "Whoa. Looks like sparkles." They climbed down from the fort, the wooden ladder creaking under their weight. As their feet touched the soft grass, Finn knelt to look closer. Tiny points of light clung to the blades of grass, little shimmers, pulsing faintly like breathing stars. Jake knelt beside him. "Whoa, leftovers from last night?" Finn reached out a hand. The glow drifted toward his fingers, resting softly in his palm. It didn't burn or fade, it just felt warm. BMO hopped down beside them. "Sky dust," they said simply. "When dreams touch the ground." Finn turned his hand, watching the light fade into his skin. "Guess some of it followed us home." Jake chuckled. "The tree fort's got souvenirs." They wandered through the grass, soft sunlight brushing their faces. Everywhere they stepped, the dew shimmered faintly, not bright, just gentle, like the earth remembering the night's magic. Finn sighed. "It's like Ooze, still dreaming a little." Jake smiled. "Maybe it doesn't want to wake up yet." They found a spot near the old Candy River and sat under a broad, leafy tree. The water moved slowly, smooth and quiet. A few candy fish swam lazily by, their scales reflecting the morning sun. Finn tossed a pebble into the river and watched the ripples spread. "You know," he said, "last night felt real, like the tree fort actually flew." Jake shrugged lazily. "Maybe it did." Finn chuckled. "You think?" Jake grinned. "Why not? We've seen weirder stuff. Besides," he paused, his voice softening, "even if it was a dream, it's a good one to believe in." They sat there a while, not talking, just... The Candy Kingdom was asleep. Soft breezes drifted through peppermint trees, and the streets shimmered faintly under a candy moon. Even the gumball guard's snores sounded gentle tonight, steady, rhythmic, like a lullaby made of bubbles. Up in the tallest tower of her lab, Princess Bubblegum sat alone at her desk. A single candle flickered beside her pink wax, melting slowly into a glass jar shaped like a heart. All around her were beakers, jars, and tiny vials of pastel-colored liquids. She adjusted her goggles and whispered to herself, All right, Bonnie Bell, one last test before bedtime. She dropped a tiny crystal into the jar. The candlelight shimmered, then softened into a warm, rose-gold glow that spread across the room like gentle honey. P.B. smiled, leaning closer. Perfect. A light that comforts instead of dazzles. She scribbled a note in her journal. Experiment hash 804, emotional luminescence, the science of soothing glow. Outside the window, the stars of Ooo twinkled like curious eyes watching her work. For a moment, P.B. rested her chin on her hand, just watching the candle breathe. It pulsed faintly in, out like a heartbeat. She sighed. Maybe I finally made something that helps people rest, not rush. From the corner, Peppermint Butler's sleepy voice murmured, "Princess, it's nearly 2 a.m. Perhaps it's your bedtime?" P.B. smiled. "Almost, Pep. I just want to see how long it lasts." He yawned, bowing slightly. "If you start glowing, please don't panic." She chuckled softly. "Noted." When Peppermint Butler left, the lab grew quiet again, just the hum of the night and the faint tick of a candy clock. P.B. stared at her candle, and something inside her chest softened. Most nights, her mind raced with formulas, theories, and inventions. But tonight felt different. The candlelight was calm, almost alive, and she felt calm too. She lifted the jar and carried it to the balcony. The wind was cool, brushing her hair softly across her face. Down below, the sleeping kingdom glowed faintly under the moonlight, gumdrop roofs, caramel streets, chocolate lampposts. P.B. whispered, "You all work so hard. Maybe I can give you better dreams." She looked at her candle, its glow warm and alive. "I'll call it the Candlelight," she said softly. "A candle that helps hearts rest." She smiled to herself and took out a small notebook. Goal, make one for every friend in Ooo. The air shimmered slightly as she wrote, like the candle was approving her plan. Then, somewhere far below, she heard a small whimper. P.B. leaned over the balcony rail. Down near the royal courtyard, Cinnamon Bun was tossing in his sleep on a bench, mumbling softly. "Too much frosting. Can't nap." P.B. frowned sympathetically. Poor guy. Without thinking twice, she took the glowing candle, set it in a small lantern, and began to walk quietly through the corridors of the castle. Her slippers made almost no sound on the sugar tile floors. The light followed her, soft and pink, filling each hallway with peace. When she reached the courtyard, the candlelight spilled over Cinnamon Bun like a warm blanket. His frown faded. His breathing slowed. P.B. watched as he smiled in his sleep. She whispered, "It works." The air around the lantern shimmered again, gentle, happy. P.B. could almost swear it was humming. She sat beside him for a moment, holding the lantern in her hands. "I made it to help my friend," she said quietly, "but maybe it's helping me too." The night breeze answered by swaying the candle flame ever so slightly, a soft nod of agreement. P.B. closed her eyes for just a moment. The candle's glow wrapped around her like comfort made visible. For once, she didn't think about data or theories, she just breathed. When she opened her eyes again, the stars seemed closer. The whole courtyard looked like it was dreaming. P.B. smiled. "Tomorrow, I'll make more." And as the moon drifted across the sugar sky and Princess Bubblegum sat beside her softly glowing lantern, a scientist surrounded by peace, discovering that sometimes the most beautiful experiments aren't about changing the world, but about lighting it gently. Morning arrived softly over the Candy Kingdom. Golden sunlight touched the frosting rooftops, and tiny dewdrops sparkled like sugar jewels on every leaf. Birds made of caramel syrup flitted between trees, chirping in sweet, sleepy tones. Princess Bubblegum stood on her balcony, her lab coat draped over her shoulders, holding the still warm lantern in her hands. The Candlelight flickered faintly, even under the daylight, a shy little glow that refused to fade. PB smiled, whispering, "Still shining. You're a stubborn little candle, huh?" She scribbled notes in her journal. Observation. Subject emits steady warmth through morning cycle. Hypothesis, warmth linked to emotional resonance. Her pen hovered over the next line. Emotional resonance, she said aloud, which means love, kindness, care. She smiled softly. So it's powered by feelings. She turned toward her shelf rows of jars, each filled with pastel-colored wax and vials of sugar-light essence. Then let's make more. Hours passed gently. PB worked quietly, mixing tiny droplets of moon syrup and starlight nectar. She hummed softly while stirring, the sound low and peaceful, echoing through her tower. Each new candle glowed a different color: peach, lilac, mint, honeygold. As she worked, she whispered names to each one. For Jake, warm and stretchy. For Finn, brave and blue. For BMO, bright and happy. For Marceline, dark violet, but soft inside. By afternoon, her desk looked like a rainbow made of warmth. Peppermint Butler poked his head in. "Ah, I see you've started a light factory." PB laughed quietly. "A Candlelight workshop. These are special." He tilted his head. "Special how?" "They're tuned to the people they're made for," she explained, holding one up. "Each one carries a little piece of kindness. When it glows, it reminds you that you're safe, loved, and never alone." Peppermint Butler smiled softly. "That's lovely, Princess." PB looked at the row of glowing jars. "Science can measure brightness, heat, even emotion, but kindness, that's new territory." She paused, her eyes softening. "Maybe science and kindness are the same thing both ways to understand the world." That evening, PB packed the candles carefully into small boxes tied with ribbons. She placed a note on each one, written in her neat, scientific handwriting. "For your rest, for your peace, PB." As the sun began to set, she wrapped herself in a light cloak and stepped out into the quiet streets. The Candy Kingdom was slowing down. Shops closing, candy citizens yawning, the glow of evening lamps reflecting on melted caramel windows. Her first stop was at the tree fort. She climbed the ladder, carrying a soft blue lantern that pulsed like ocean waves. Inside, Finn was sitting by the window, strumming a quiet tune on his little ukulele while Jake snoozed beside him. Finn looked up. "Hey, baby, what brings you here?" She smiled. "Just delivering a little experiment." Finn grinned. "Experiment? Sounds cool." PB set the lantern down. The light spilled gently over the room, soft and blue like calm water. Jake stirred, blinking. "Whoa, what's that?" "It's a Candlelight," PB said softly. "A candle that helps your dreams stay peaceful." Jake stretched and yawned. "Dreams, huh? Sounds comfy." Finn watched as the light shimmered against the walls. The whole tree fort felt warmer. The usual quiet became softer, rounder, filled with invisible safety. He smiled faintly. "Feels, calm." PB nodded. "That's the idea." BMO peeked out from behind a pillow, eyes glowing bright. "BMO loves calm. Calm is cozy." PB chuckled. "Then you'll need your own." She reached into her satchel and pulled out a tiny, mint-colored candle with a face drawn on the jar. BMO squealed happily. "It's so cute. It looks like me." PB smiled. "It's meant to." Jake sniffed the air, tail wagging lazily. "Smells like vanilla pancakes." PB blushed slightly. "That's your custom blend, Jake." Finn laughed softly. "PB, you think of everything." PB looked around at her friends, their sleepy smiles, the soft glow wrapping around them. For the first time in a while, her chest felt light. "Good night, you guys," she said quietly. "Sleep well." As she left, she looked back one more time. The tree fort glowed softly behind her blue, gold, and mint lights, pulsing together like gentle stars. She whispered to herself, "It's working." Back in the Candy Kingdom, she continued her little deliveries. One candle for Peppermint Butler's reading desk. One for Lady Rainicorn's cloud nest glowing softly in pastel rainbows. And one left quietly at Marceline's window glowing with deep violet warmth. Each time she gave one away, PB felt lighter, as if her heart had more room to glow too. When she finally returned to her tower, the last candle, her own, waited on the desk. It flickered pink and soft like a sigh. She whispered, "Maybe the experiment isn't about light at all. Maybe it's about care." The candle shimmered gently as if nodding. PB smiled, took off her lab coat, and curled up near the window with a warm blanket. The city below shimmered with her kind lights, tiny stars in every home, glowing in the soft candy night. For the first time in weeks, she felt completely at peace. The night whispered, "Well done, Princess." PB smiled in her sleep. "Thank you." The next evening was gentle. The Candy Kingdom glowed softly under a sugar moon, its streets lit not just by lamps, but by the new kind lights glowing in windows all around. Each light shimmered its own color: blue, gold, violet, mint, little constellations of peace. Princess Bubblegum walked through the streets with her hands clasped behind her back, smiling quietly. Citizens waved sleepily from their porches. "Good night, Princess." "Sweet dreams, Bonnibel." She waved back. "Good night, everyone." Her heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. It wasn't the kind of happiness that came from invention or discovery. It was softer, the joy of knowing others were at peace. But as she reached the edge of the square, she noticed something strange. A faint flicker in the corner of her eye. She turned. One of the windows, Peppermint Butler's, had gone dim. Her smile faded. She hurried across the square, her slippers whispering against the candy cobblestone. Inside Peppermint Butler's study, the kind light glowed weakly, its pink-gold hue flickering unevenly. Peppermint Butler sat at his desk, chin in hand, looking tired. "Pep," PB said gently, "is everything all right? Your candles? Fading?" He looked up, his peppermint eyes soft. "Ah, yes, I noticed that. It's been a long day, Princess." PB frowned, kneeling beside the flickering jar. "Strange. They're not supposed to fade this quickly." She lifted it carefully, examining the flame. It flickered once, twice, then steadied in just enough to glow faintly. Peppermint Butler smiled faintly. "It's all right, Princess. Not every light shines the same every night." PB blinked. "But it should. It's designed for constant luminosity." He chuckled softly. "Maybe that's the problem. You made it perfect." PB looked up. "How could that be a problem?" Peppermint Butler turned the pages of his book slowly. "Sometimes we need room for tiredness, for imperfection. Maybe the kind light flickers because I'm tired, not broken." PB paused, staring at the flame. It wasn't weak, it was breathing, just slower than before. She whispered, "So it reflects us." Peppermint Butler nodded gently. "Of course it does. It's kindness, Princess, not a machine." PB sat back, thoughtful. Her mind buzzed with all the usual logic and hypotheses, but her heart felt something different, something humbler. "Maybe," she said quietly, "the experiment's not about control at all." He smiled. "Kindness rarely is." PB adjusted the jar, shielding the flame with her hand. The little light steadied again, burning softer but steadier as if reassured by her touch. She exhaled. Maybe it just needed a little company. Peppermint Butler chuckled. We all do. They shared a quiet moment. No data, no charts, just warmth. PB finally stood and said softly, I'll check the others. Thank you, Pep. He nodded. Rest well, Princess. As PB stepped back into the night, she noticed something new. Every Candlelight around the kingdom flickered differently. Some bright, some dim, some steady, some soft. None of them were the same. And yet together they made the whole city shimmer like a heartbeat. She whispered, They're alive. The thought filled her with a strange peace. Not fear, not worry, understanding. She wandered toward the tree fort again. From afar, she saw Finn and Jake's windows glowing bright blue and gold, soft and even. BMO's mint light blinked playfully. But Marceline's violet candle, sitting by her window, flickered faintly like it was shy. PB hesitated. Maybe she needs a visit too. She floated up the hill toward Marceline's cave. Soft music drifted through the open window, low, slow, like a lullaby. PB tapped gently. Hey, Marcy. Marceline looked up from her base, smiling faintly. Hey, Peebs, what's up? PB stepped inside, holding her lab notebook to her chest. Your candle. It's flickering. Marceline laughed softly. Yeah, I noticed. Guess even magic lights get sleepy. PB sat beside her. Do you, mind if I watch it for a moment? Sure. They both sat quietly, watching the violet flame dance in its jar. It shimmered, wobbled, and steadied. Marceline plucked a slow note on her bass. Maybe it's just vibing with the music. PB smiled. Maybe it's vibing with you. Marceline smirked. So it gets moody sometimes? PB laughed softly. Seems like it. Marceline tilted her head. You made this thing, didn't you? PB nodded. To help people sleep. To remind them they're safe. Marceline's voice softened. You always do stuff like that, Peebs. You take care of everyone else. PB looked down. It's easier to fix things than feelings. Marceline's smile faded, gentle now. Maybe that's why this one's flickering, because it's reminding you to rest too. PB looked at the candle again. The violet light glowed a little stronger. She sighed quietly. Maybe you're right. Marceline strummed one last note, the sound soft and slow. PB leaned back against the couch, eyes half closed. The candle flickered again, not weakly this time, but like it was breathing in rhythm with the music. Content. PB whispered, It's not about perfection. It's about presence. Marceline smiled. Now that sounds like the Peebs I know. They sat in silence, the candlelight warm around them. PB felt her mind go still for the first time in days. When she left later that night, the sky was full of stars. The flickers across the Candy Kingdom weren't random anymore. They felt alive, like every heart glowing in its own quiet rhythm. PB whispered to herself, Kindness isn't perfect light. It's steady care. She walked home slowly, carrying the calm with her. The lights around the city flickered softly, not one the same, but all together. And it was beautiful. The next morning rose in soft, gentle colors, peach skies, cotton candy clouds, and the faint sparkle of dew over caramel leaves. Princess Bubblegum stood on her balcony again, her lab coat folded neatly over one arm, and her travel satchel on the other. On the table beside her were 6 Candlelights, each in a small jar, each glowing a little differently. She whispered to them, All right, my sweet little lights, time to go exploring. Peppermint Butler brought her a thermos of warm cocoa. Traveling again, Princess? PB smiled. Not for research, for kindness. He bowed. Then you'll be successful for sure. She laughed softly, hugging him goodbye. Hold down the castle, Pep. With that, she stepped into the golden morning, the soft hum of her kind lights accompanying her like tiny heartbeats. Her first stop was the grassy plains outside the Candy Kingdom. Finn and Jake were there, building something that looked suspiciously like a giant pancake catapult. "PB," Finn waved, grinning. "Check this out." Jake stretched up beside him, half asleep, muttering, "It's too early for science." PB chuckled. "Actually, I came to share something new." She took out a jar, this one glowing in golden orange waves that matched the sunrise. "This Candlelight is for travelers. It's meant to guide you when you're far from home." Finn's eyes widened. "Whoa, really?" PB nodded. "It reacts to courage and laughter. The braver and happier you are, the brighter it glows." Jake took it gently in his paw, holding it up. "It looks warm." PB smiled. "It is." Finn whispered, "Can we bring it camping?" "Please do," she said softly. "It'll keep you company under the stars." They smiled, and Finn gave her a quick hug. "Thanks, PB. You always think of others." She smiled faintly. "It's easy when they're my friends." Next, PB traveled to the shimmering meadows where Lady Rainicorn rested on a soft cloud. The air was rainbow light and humming with soft energy. "Annyeong, Peebles," Lady Rainicorn greeted warmly. PB smiled, holding up a small jar that glowed in faint pastel stripes. "This one's for you, Lady Rainicorn. It glows in all colors. It changes with your mood." Lady Rainicorn smiled, her long body curling gently. "It's beautiful." PB nodded softly. "It's meant to remind you that your feelings, all of them, are light." The rainbow creature's eyes softened, and she wrapped PB in a gentle hug. "Gamzamida, Peebles." PB felt warmth spread through her chest. The candle flickered, then shimmered like a miniature aurora. She whispered, "It's learning your heart." As the day passed, PB wandered farther, carrying the rest of the kindlights in her satchel. She stopped at the Fire Kingdom, where the air shimmered with heat. Flame Princess stood by a lava pool, gazing into its molten glow. PB approached carefully. "Hey, FP." Flame Princess turned, smiling faintly. "Hey, Bubblegum. You brought science to my fire again?" PB chuckled. Something gentler this time. She held out a small jar with a crimson wax inside, glowing softly like embers instead of bright flame. "This Candlelight burns cool. It's not made to fight fire, but to match it. It glows stronger when you're calm, not angry." Flame Princess tilted her head, curious. "So it doesn't compete. It listens." PB nodded. "Exactly." Flame Princess smiled slowly. "Then it's welcome here." PB watched as the kindlight's gentle glow mixed with the firelight, one fierce, one soft together, making something balanced, beautiful. She whispered, "Even fire can rest." By dusk, PB's satchel was almost empty. Only one Candlelight remained, a pale blue jar glowing like twilight. She walked through the forest paths toward the Ice Kingdom, the air growing colder with each step. The ground shimmered with frost, and the wind sang through icy towers. Inside his castle, the Ice King was humming to himself, combing his beard with a fork. PB knocked gently. "Hey, Ice King." He turned, surprised. "Oh, Princess Bubblegum. Are you here to scold me again?" She smiled kindly. "Not this time. I brought you something." She held out the pale blue Candlelight. It glowed softly, like moonlight on snow. He blinked. "For me?" PB nodded. "Yes. It's made to help you sleep easier. It glows brighter when you're feeling lonely, to remind you that someone cares." Ice King's face softened in confusion. Someone cares? She smiled. Of course, Ice King. You're part of Ooo, too. He looked down at the light, watching it shimmer in his hands. It pulsed faintly, growing stronger with every quiet breath he took. He whispered, "It's beautiful," PB said softly. "It's just light, but it carries warmth. You deserve both." For a long time he said nothing, just stared at it, his eyes watery. Finally he murmured, "Thank you, Princess." PB smiled and turned to go. "Good night, Ice King." As she walked out into the snow, she looked back once the entire castle, now glowing faintly blue, peaceful and still. By the time she returned home, the stars were out. All across. From the Fire Kingdom to the Ice Kingdom, soft lights glowed, each one unique, each one steady. PB stood on her balcony, the night breeze brushing her hair. She looked out at the horizon, at her kind lights, shining like new constellations scattered across the world. She whispered, "Maybe kindness doesn't just light homes. Maybe it lights hearts." The wind carried her words away gently like a lullaby. The kind light beside her flickered, then glowed brighter as if agreeing. PB smiled, set her journal aside, and finally let herself rest. All was quiet. All was light. The Candy Kingdom slept quietly under a starlit sky. Every window shimmered faintly, the little kind lights pulsing in rhythm like gentle hearts. It was a sight that filled Princess Bubblegum with quiet joy, but that peace would not last forever. It began with a whisper, a soft shh through the air, like sugar being poured across a table. PB stirred in her sleep, eyes fluttering open. Her room was dim, too dim. She sat up, blinking at the candle on her nightstand. Her kind light. It flickered weakly, its pink glow trembling like a breath about to fade. PB frowned. That's not right. She got out of bed, pulling her robe around her shoulders. The floor felt colder than usual, and the air carried a faint hum like the silence before rain. She stepped onto her balcony, and her heart sank. The kind lights, all of them across the Candy Kingdom, across the fields and towers and rooftops, were dimming. Their colors faded one by one, blue, gold, mint, violet, until the whole kingdom lay in gentle shadow. PB whispered, "What's happening?" She ran down to her lab, her slippers whispering against the floor. Inside, her notebook lay open, filled with notes and equations, but none of them could explain this. Emotional resonance, energy stability, frequency decay, she muttered, flipping pages. Every formula led to another question. Her hands trembled slightly. They can't all go out at once. Peppermint Butler appeared in the doorway, candle in hand. "Princess," he said softly. "The lights are fading everywhere. Even the tree fort's gone dark." PB froze. "Finn and Jake's too?" He nodded. PB pressed her hands to the table. "It's not just energy. It's something else." She closed her eyes, trying to feel instead of think. She remembered how the kindlights had glowed brighter when shared, when cared for, when given with love. Now the air around her felt lonely. She whispered, "They're connected to our hearts. Maybe everyone's grown tired." Peppermint Butler tilted his head. "Tired of what?" "Of rushing, worrying, trying to stay perfect," PB said softly. "Even me." The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was heavy, like the whole kingdom was holding its breath. PB straightened slowly. "Then maybe I can't fix this with science." Peppermint Butler smiled faintly. "No experiment for this one?" PB shook her head. "No, just care." She stepped outside, walking through the darkened streets. Candy citizens peeked out from their windows, faces anxious. Princess, what's happening? Where's the light? PB looked at them, all the people she loved, each one holding a dim candle, each one waiting. She spoke softly, but clearly, her voice calm. The kind lights are made from kindness, not power, and kindness can fade when we forget to rest, or when we stop believing in our own warmth. She paused, her voice gentler. But the light was never really in the candles, it's in us. A quiet murmur spread through the crowd. PB knelt and placed her hand over her heart. Close your eyes, she said. And remember someone you care about, someone who made you feel safe. One by one, the candy citizens obeyed. Softly, the night filled with the sound of calm breathing, whispers of memory. PB closed her eyes too, thinking of Finn's smile, Jake's laughter, Marceline's music, BMO's joy, Peppermint Butler's loyalty. Warmth stirred in her chest, small, steady, and real. When she opened her eyes, her candle flickered. Just once, but it was enough. Then one by one, the other kind lights flickered too. Not bright, just alive again. Soft heartbeats of color pulsing across the city. PB gasped quietly, a tear glimmering on her cheek. They were never mine to control, she whispered. They're ours to share. The wind carried her words, spreading the warmth further. The lights strengthened, glowing together again. Not uniform, not perfect, but beautifully different. Peppermint Butler smiled from the crowd. I think they missed you, Princess. PB laughed softly through her tears. I miss them too. That night, PB didn't go back to her lab. She sat in the town square, surrounded by her people, watching the glow rebuild itself slow and steady. The stars returned overhead, brighter now, as if the universe was breathing again. PB whispered to herself, light isn't about shining all the time. It's about returning again and again, no matter how dark it gets. She leaned back, resting her head against the cool marble steps, and finally closed her eyes. All around her, the kind lights